That's
I'm
probably why
actually,
then too.
Oh, you're on a
I'm actually,
landline.
well, I'm not on a landline, but I am on a phone line. I'm not on the internet.
I gotcha.
Mr. Turner, I want to say something while you all are waiting. I lived across the street from MC White, who was Michael White's father. MC Wright, is that right? White in Memphis. But I didn't know that that was his son when I came to the meetings to form hedgerows and all of that until after he died. And I felt so bad that I hadn't ever paid attention because he let us get on his motorcycle. Well, let my kids get on his motorcycle and do crazy things. And then he turned out to be quite an interesting character. And I didn't know who was on the commission at the time. So
Yeah, not too many boards have a
me to
Santa Claus
see
on their
everybody.
board. Not too many boards have a Santa Claus on their board.
He was a great guy.
Well, I even did a little business with MC White, but didn't put together that that was his son.
Right, right. Betsy,
I am now here, at least on my phone, so.
we might want to consider
Closing.
moving item number 7 to the top of the agenda for Tom and Jimmy Burdette. Tom Wilson is the owner of the Hedgerow subdivision, and Jimmy's going to help him put a development contract together, or put a construction plan together in order to develop the next phase. So,
All right.
they need an extension. So I put that on there this morning or today, and sent out a new one, a new
Okay.
packet today. So.
Okay, so looking at the agenda. So since I've just come on, have we already started the meeting and have we had the roll call and call to order?
No.
Or are we just,
No,
we're just,
Tim was afraid to start. He wanted to wait for you.
well, thank you, but I have so much trouble with all these things. You're welcome to start anytime, Tim, and I'll just come on in. But yes, okay, if we are calling the meeting to order and we have a quorum,
Yes, all the planning commissioners are here except for Matt. He's not going to be here tonight.
okay, let's check to see who was there. All right, so if you'll take a minute to look at the minutes of the December 15th, and then we'll start with the number 7 as first, so. Okay. If there are any additions or corrections, please make that be known to the board. If there are not, then we will approve the minutes as presented. Okay, we're going to start with item 7. So does the staff want to address that for us? Or Bob?
So back on August the 4th, the planning commission approved an extension on the preliminary plat for the additional phases for the Hedgerow subdivision, which includes phase 3, 4, 5, and 6. So right now they've done phase 1, which you know where that all is right now, right here, right through here. This is all phase 1, and up to, and you can see when you're going down the highway, you can see where phase 1 ends already. So I think what they want to do is start to work on a construction plan for an additional phase, or I don't know, at least one that I know of. And then go through the approval process, the construction documents and all that stuff, and the development contract and the whole thing. So what they're requesting tonight is a 6 months extension on that extension that we got before. And if you look at, I took the section out of the subdivision regulations, which allows for extensions.
Okay,
that the planning commission can grant an extension on that preliminary plat.
all right. Do we have a motion to such an extension?
So moved.
This is Ronnie Neal. I would move that we grant the extension.
Okay, and Judy, can I use you as a second?
Yes. that's-
All right, so we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? If I hear no discussion, will we do a roll call on approving the extension, please?
Judy,
Aye.
Tim,
Aye.
Richard,
Aye.
uh,
Aye.
George, sorry. Betsy
Aye.
and Mayor.
Okay, extension is approved.
Sorry,
All right,
I ran
um,
off the wrong agenda on my thing. I'm making another agenda for myself. Sorry. Hang on just one second.
Let's see.
I need a piece of paper to keep my, my notes on.
All
And I
right,
don't
so
have
we've
the-
approved that. We're ready to move on to what was item number 4, revised final plat of Nicholas Place.
Yes, sir. Okay, Tom, appreciate you coming.
Thank you very much, all of you. I'm
And Jimmy,
pleased
thank you
to
for
be
coming.
part of Somerville. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Have a good evening.
Thank you, Jimmy.
All right, bye-bye.
Item number 4 is the revised final plat for Nicholas Place. I'll go right to the staff report. In 2012, the planning commission approved this final plat. They made a couple of changes and I'll show you what those are in just a second. And the building permit was issued based on that that approved plat. However, the final plat was never recorded in the registrar's office. So what they want to do is they brought this to my attention last month, and they would like to update that plat to get it registered correctly at the registrar's office. So one of the things they called out and specifically was the setbacks that they wanted to call out on there. That was one of the big changes there. That was the big change. And they also actually removed the suggested size of the houses on here, which don't quite coincide with what they're doing right now. I think they're actually building slightly larger houses right at the moment. They're 1,850 square feet so far, every one of them. So a lot bigger than I thought they could get on those lots, I can tell you that. So anyway, they've already started building there. We've already issued permits based on the decision made in 2012, but we did not realize that it hadn't been registered. So what we would like to do is get approval on this plat so that we can take it over and get it registered at the registrar's office.
You said that was the main thing. Was there any other less significant item?
The 3.5-foot setback is called out, whereas it was only indicated on the actual plat itself, wasn't indicated in the writing part of it. They wanted to
now-
make sure that it was called out in the writing part of it. And then
Okay.
they removed the actual the little diagram of houses on there.
Right, I'm looking at the plat. It's signed by Mark Ward, but
Yeah.
it's never been actually registered then.
It's not this is one from a previous plat. This is one from 09. The one from 12 is the one that was never registered.
So we don't have a copy of 12 in our packet.
You actually don't. Don't know why. Let me just hang on a second. I probably have that. I'm going to look here real quick. Hang on. Okay. You see that now?
See,
It's
No,
hard to
I
read.
can't because I'm on the phone.
But
Oh.
that's the actual plat right there. Now, I'm gonna zoom in on one property maybe, and so everybody can see what it kind of looks like. But you can see it calls for a 3.5-foot setback right there, which is
Yeah.
what it's calling back for each property. Everybody can everybody kind of see that now? That's
map,
that
yeah.
close, you see?
Yes.
So we don't actually have the recorded plat at all, anywhere. Never was recorded. So all they've
You're talking
done
about
is,
in-
pardon me?
12. In 12.
Yeah, the one from 12 was never recorded.
Okay. And this is the one that was recorded from 9 that we're looking at on the screen. Oh, there's.
This is the one that was recorded in 09. February, looks like February of 09.
Mhm. Do we have a motion to approve? Let me get back. Yeah, it's worded. Do we have a motion to approve the 2012 final plat of Nicholas Place presented today with the
So
two
moved.
changes? Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Discussion, is there anything that we need to discuss before voting on this? Are
What
we
is that big lot?
comfortable? Okay,
That's a park area. I don't know if you've ever seen that there before, but hang on a second. It's there right now. They're gonna have to clean it up, but it's a park area.
Okay. That'll be nice.
All right, I have the wrong agenda, then I can't get my printer to, doesn't seem to want to print, so I guess I'll just struggle through with the wrong agenda on my desk. I'll figure that out later. Sorry. Okay,
any other
everybody-
discussion? Are we prepared to have a vote? If we are prepared to have a vote, let's have,
All right, could I,
Ronnie?
there is the common area there or the park.
Yes, sir.
And then out front, there are some common areas. You've got that retention pond. And according to the 2009 plat, you've got common areas on both sides of the street.
Yes, sir.
And I can't actually read this. So what do the covenants say about who's going to maintain that and how it's going to be maintained in the future?
I don't think they've come to the meeting this evening. I invited him today, but it looks like he's not here. Let me just review it here real quick.
I just got reconnected. I don't know what's going on with my computer. What did I miss in the first 12 minutes?
in the first 12 minutes, that's a good one. We have approved hedgerows final, or their next phase.
Hey, Bob, I'm looking in the covenants
Yes,
on letter V in the right-hand column.
yes.
So the homeowners association will be responsible to adhering to all covenants and for the maintenance of all common areas.
Okay.
And
Well, since there's only been 3 homeowners in there for the last, since 2012, they weren't really adhering to that, I guess. I guess the developer, the owner of the properties was taking care of that in the past.
All right, Jim, where are you reading that?
Letter V on the
Letter
page
B?
2.
V
as
is in victory.
V as in Alabama victory.
Do you see it there, Mayor? Right, if you're looking at it?
Yes, I do now.
Okay.
All right, and then where do they, where is the homeowners association set up? I mean, how does that work?
Mr. Mayor, are you asking where?
I'm reading because I didn't notice it before.
Yeah, that's what I'm just wondering, how is that? I mean, I assume there would be somewhere that would talk about at least that homeowners would come together and have bylaws, and, you know, the ones I've seen before, usually the developer holds on to that homeowners association until a certain percentage of the lots are sold. And I was just looking through here and haven't seen how that's going to be set up, and then the city winds up with two areas out front and a park that in theory a homeowner association keeps up, but it doesn't.
That's been my experience too, that it's usually discussed in the covenants of the plat, but I've also seen where it is only presented in your closing documents when you reach the closing table when you buy a piece of property in such a subdivision.
Yeah. Jim,
It does,
you obviously
letter
would
T
have had a
does
lot
say
of.
any owner of any lot in the subdivision shall have the right to enforce by any proceeding at law or in equity all conditions, restrictions, and covenants herein.
Yeah, but
it doesn't really show
you know,
the
what
structure of
it's-
what that homeowner association is.
you know, it's fine to say the homeowners association is responsible for all that, but
Right. It doesn't really set it up.
There has to be a legal
you
instrument.
know, normally that's going to require a fee that's going to have to keep those things mowed and cut. And Jim, obviously you've run into a lot of this in your prior employment. What do you think?
I've seen it several different ways from my experience. Usually there is excuse me, at least a reference to establishing a homeowner association. Probably most commonly it's done by a separate document where you have a separate document that lays out the creation and makeup and rules governing the association, which, and I'm not familiar with this one, it may or may not have happened here. It is typical to have at least a reference to it, though, to a separate document with that instrument number on it, just so that it sort of connects the dots. And as George said, then those are the ones that typically would be in the closing documents that had the full homeowner association makeup and even a sort of a duplicate copy of the covenants that they would be forced to abide by. This one only has a loose reference, it seems, in that one part about the homeowner association. But there are some more general references. In Article 3, it talks about halfway down, you know, how to amend them, where it takes 80% of the owners, where, you know, one vote per lot. So there's a little bit of a process referred to on how they would function in changing them, not much on how who would enforce them or how it would be enforced, or like you said, if fees are involved. It might take a minute of research to see if there's already been a document recorded that established the homeowner association. So I don't think we're sure tonight whether or not that's been done or not.
Okay, could we do that, Bob, and find out? Because otherwise we're going to have a developer walk away. There's going to be no homeowners association.
Okay.
And they're going to be calling us about cutting the park and cutting those two areas out front there.
Okay. I'll check into that.
Would it be appropriate for me to ask that someone go back in the minutes of this meeting and mark that I would have voted aye on the previous question,
Okay.
please?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Well,
again, I apologize for being late. I was not late, but I was on for like 30 seconds and then everybody froze, and I don't know what's going on with my internet connection, but it took me a while. I had to restart my computer.
well, we can put this on hold until the for 2 more weeks.
I was just gonna say, do we need to roll it forward for 2, 3, 4 weeks?
Or you can approve it pending finding out about that, or, you might want to just wait.
We'd want to wait, wouldn't we?
I would think so,
Yes.
or otherwise you have no leverage to do anything.
It's been
Right.
9 years, another 2 weeks won't hurt.
Well, that's for sure. And yes.
So where are we? Final plat, Nicholas Place. On item 4, the review of the final plat, we are postponing that till the next meeting.
Well, we have a motion and
No
a second,
votes?
Mayor.
Okay, so do we have a motion to,
We have a motion and a
I
second
would
to approve
move-
it.
I would move that the motion be postponed until the next meeting.
do we have a second on that motion to postpone?
Second.
Second that.
Okay, we have a second.
Who seconded it?
George,
Okay.
Okay. Roll call on that?
Hang on a second. Okay. Tim,
Aye.
Richard,
Aye.
George,
aye.
Betsy,
Aye.
Judy,
Aye.
Mayor.
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right. On to item 5, discuss amending table of uses as follows.
Yes. Mendy had a business come to town and talked about, it's a light manufacturing business, and we talked about locations for that light manufacturing business. And we were discussing general business districts that he might be able to, it would probably fit into, since it's a light manufacturing district anyway. I mean, it's a light manufacturing and not heavy manufacturing. Of course, it wouldn't fit into every business district, but it could fit into some. So similar to what we did with Memphis Contract Packaging over there at the old Pomida building, we could allow certain uses by special exception, which is not listed there right now. Under manufacturing, not previously listed on the list of manufacturing allowed within the town of Somerville, we could allow that use by special exception if it's brought to the BZA. So that's actually going to be in that next ordinance on number 6 there, listed out separately, and I can show you that when we get there. But,
Okay.
is there any discussion on that? I mean,
What
know,
type
there's-
of business is it?
Mhm.
Amendi?
It was a sheet metal company. They're in North Carolina, and they basically manufacture the metal, and they have
Trusses.
they have a patented process of that with the sheet metal. And so from what I understand, they send those pieces to specific manufacturers that build metal buildings. And so they're kind of I don't know the word that you, just a company that sells directly to metal building manufacturers. So they're,
But it's like an 8,000 square foot building. It's not like, a 4-acre building or something like that. where
right,
they do
it's
this.
not huge, and they don't have storage outside. He said basically the major thing would be the traffic. They would have like one large 18-wheeler every day to bring the stuff out. But he said there would be nothing outside. There would be no work outside. They would just have, and I took a look at their location in North Carolina, and it's a very clean looking, very well maintained building. And he was interested in coming to our area. But he was concerned because when he did go to our website, he noticed that the property that he was kind of looking at wasn't zoned for him. And I told him that a special exception, could possibly be made. That kind of scared him. because he thought like rezoning process. Oh no, rezoning process. And I said, no. I said, you would come in front of our planning commission and, just move forward with that. So that's how Bob and I got started on the conversation.
Where is he looking?
There are two pieces of property, the car dealership right there on 64. So the car dealership is for sale, but also behind that, there's 5 acres for sale. And so he wasn't interested really in the office, but he was definitely interested in that 5 acres behind the car dealership. I was trying to talk him into buying both, but
So they would build a new building. It isn't the one that Rolando has, right?
That's close, but that's not the same. That was that, I believe that's only 1.5 acres.
Okay.
Or 2 maybe.
Okay.
That's, my first thought is that that's not a location that you would rezone for something like that or provide. How's that zone now?
General business.
General business.
The 5 acres is?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
I mean, to me, that's not my first thought is that is not a place for a manufacturing business. Now, that's my first thought.
Sure.
Well, elaborate on that because it's too close. Because what?
Well, because all the rest of it is residential. I've never been all that comfortable with that area being in the middle of nowhere, being zoned commercial anyway, but it is. So, when we rezoned that one lot to
limited business.
To what, office? Limited
yeah,
business?
limited business. Yes, sir.
Uh-huh.
So we've got, we had the limited business and we had the car lot, and then I don't know, to me, to put a 8,000 square foot manufacturing facility, light or otherwise, I'm just, my first thought is that I'm not necessarily for that.
Well, and he's
Go
not
ahead.
coming to the board. He was, I showed him the property, and he was not willing to pay that price, which was very cheap, honestly. But that's how the conversation basically started. So, it's kind of, we just wanted to ask you all what you thought of.
What kind of noise factor would be involved with something like that?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know that part. And I know that
there'd be
it is a
noise.
normal, well, it's an 8 to 5 operation. I do know that.
Okay.
But
that's always dangerous when you start rezoning something or allowing something based on what that one person's going to do. Because once you approve that, then anything that's especially on a rezoning, I mean.
But not if we're talking about a special exception.
Yeah, right? And enforcing a special exception can.
Yeah, it has its own problems, but.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Well, it was just a thought. We absolutely do not have to do it. It's just a thought to offer an option for a light manufacturing company to bring something into town, but absolutely don't have to do it.
Well, I mean, Memphis Contract Packaging down there on Jernigan is the perfect example of, we changed the zoning to allow very light manufacturing in there. And now I guess you can still say that's light manufacturing, but you've got 3 truckloads of alcohol sitting out there. Now we're adding on to this huge building, and, if for some reason they left, then suddenly you've got this huge, huge building there that there's going to be a lot of pressure probably at some point to allow whatever would, anything almost to go in there. And so then there you are. So, I mean, I just think we need to be very careful about all these special exceptions and things.
Okay.
Madam Chairman, I don't think you need any additional activity on this. Move on.
Okay.
Well, I'm just one vote. I'd like to hear what everybody else thinks about it.
My
I'm
opinion,
not hearing anything though.
Ronnie, my opinion is much the same as yours. I mean, we just, if something really exceptional came in or wanted to come in, we look at it at that time. And we look at it with a microscope.
My question is, do we have available light manufacturing property?
That was one of the reasons it was brought up.
Because there's not.
Yeah, there's
Very,
not
very
much.
limited.
Yeah. And I mean, that's totally fine. Like, I would love to see all houses, or, whatever. But we just wanted to make sure if we were to, I don't want to misquote the Planning Commission or our intentions to someone, because we are getting more calls like this. And, and the prices are going up because there is want and need. And like I said, we just wanted to ask. We didn't know because like George said, there is limited general or manufacturing or light manufacturing. I don't know that there's any, is there, Bob?
There's some next to Fowler Paving there. But other than that, maybe down there, actually near where those apartments are going to be going in if that rezoning happens down there.
What about east of the square on 64?
Not much, George.
On
The
the
only
south
thing
side.
is right there near Memphis Contract Packaging.
Yeah.
So all that property behind Bull Market that's light manufacturing, is it all built up and
Behind Bull Market?
well, you'd have to pull the zoning map. Oh wait, I've got one right here.
I have it on my, wait a minute, I have a PDF of it. I can put it on the screen for you. Hang on a sec.
Purple. Yeah, the GM section.
It's the light, no, it's the light purple.
No, limited manufacturing is dark purple.
Dark purple. Okay.
Well, but now that I'm looking at it, that is light purple. Dark purple is really dark. Yeah, so the light purple, that is
Okay.
that
My
is,
Adobe just crashed. Fun times. Okay.
it looks like it's right behind the place where, well, we just rezoned something there recently.
Well, you can see down here, if you're looking on the, I got to share it. Hang on a second.
Bob, I think you need 5 computers up there.
I do. 3 hands too.
Yeah.
Hang on a second. Okay. All right. So if you look on the screen, you can see there's some heavy manufacturing down here. Well, that is, let's see here. That is, okay, that's, what is there?
That's the fireworks plant, isn't it? The signaling.
No,
No, that's not
Fowler. Fowler.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's Fowler Paving.
Okay.
Right. And
And then
then,
there's this, the general business up here on the highway and the light and heavy manufacturing on the Turley property, which that's from a long time ago. That's never been changed. And then you have some very limited light manufacturing over here off of Lock Road. Right here under that is where the apartments are going to be built.
Yeah.
So some of that's going to be taken up already. And then over here, you've got the industrial park. You got Memphis Contract Packaging. You've got a couple of areas over here, and then you've got that Allison Court building, which has been there, well, since 1960. that's tied up for another 10 years.
I guess
So-
my main question when looking at this map is, we see the LM, we know what it means, but we can't tell by looking at this if there are already existing buildings on all that property, or if there's some of that that's available for somebody to purchase and build what they want.
So over here at Fowler Paving, there are no buildings on that. Now, this is Fowler Paving,
It's occupied.
That's
yeah.
right.
right? There's
Hmm.
nothing on here but farmland on the Turley property.
Did they look at that?
Well, that's not really available anymore. That was
Well-
rezoned
And that's
20
right.
something years ago for that industrial park. They were going to build a road down to the airport from Highway 64. It just never transpired.
Right. And that's kind of the dance. So if you have someone call, I feel like we got really lucky with the apartment complex. We had just talked to Janet Parsons regarding that property for another use. So I knew that there was property available that was not on the market. And when someone calls and says, this is what I'm looking for, well, I can look at what's on the market. And then the only other option I have is knowing that property owners, going directly to them and talking to them, or kind of when people say, hey, you know what, I might be interested in selling. It's kind of a give and take. So when someone from out of town starts calling, my only options really, unless I know of something just off the top of my head, are to go to a commercial real estate page and take a look at it. So the Turley property, we have a feeling that they're probably not interested in selling ever. So I don't even count that as property that would even be considered.
Sure, it's misleading
So-
because, yeah.
Right. And I don't want to cause people problem or time either. So
Well, it was rezoned for a specific purpose that never came
Sure.
about.
sure.
Yeah. In reality, when you start looking around for properties that are available in town, there are not a lot of properties available in town.
Right.
Even though there's a lot of property for out there, not a lot of it for sale.
And it's getting very expensive every day.
Right. I would say most of this general business has something on it. I know this piece does not. That's Joe Wynn's property.
That's right. Yeah.
This is Tennessee Tractor.
Mhm.
This is currently owned by one person. All this down here, which has basically houses on it right now.
Can't see where you're pointing to.
Over here, all the way down at the end,
Oh, okay,
past
I
Warren
got you.
Road.
I got it.
Yeah.
Whatever happened with that next to Summer Oak that they looked like they were going to do something and then nothing happened? The parcel, I guess it's right next to Summer Oak.
So
Remember?
yeah,
Uh-oh,
I
lost
don't know
you.
what happened with that.
Bob?
I don't know what happened with that.
Oh,
Off the top of my
okay.
head, I can't remember.
Okay.
I don't even remember what it was. Do you remember what it was, Betsy?
I don't know if it was a realtor that was going to put an office there, but it's very low and they can't there was
Oh,
some
they started
earth
clearing that
equipment.
property.
Yeah.
But
And then
they never did
nothing.
anything with it. It's just sitting there.
Yeah. Well, we
Oh,
have,
the one with the tractor sitting on it.
Yeah,
yeah.
it's still a
Yeah.
tractor sitting on it. Yeah.
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 Yeah, it's just sitting there.
Well, it is hard to sell if you discount the Turley property and a lot of the light business is already used up in that zone. But, that's because we have a lot of farmland in our city limits and we don't have a lot of networking roads that could open anything else up that isn't on 64. I mean, look at-
Exactly.
and,
That's right.
And that's not going to really change. I mean,
It's the
Right.
same thing with Fayette County as basically as a whole.
Hey,
You think
Bob.
about
yeah.
Yeah.
Bob, could you pan over to the east side and look at that furthest east light
Light
manufacturing? Can you scroll in on that?
This year,
Yeah.
Couple
so
times.
this
So
piece
what's
of
that
property
property
right here.
south of it?
Pardon me?
What's that property south of it?
That's
Yeah, right
farmland
there.
down there. That's this is the ballpark.
Yeah.
Oh, it
Right
is
here.
the ballpark.
That's
Yeah.
11 acre, 12 acre ballpark.
I was about to say, why don't we ask whoever owns that to throw
The
in.
problem is that's owned by a 501c3.
Yeah, I got you
That
now.
ballpark cannot be sold. It can be given to another 501c3 or a municipality.
Right.
So they could give it to us. We've been talking to them because I know that Memphis Contract Packaging wants that piece of property, but we haven't been able to locate a piece of property that's reasonable enough for a Memphis Contract Packaging to build them a new ballpark. So we could facilitate some kind of trade type deal to get MCP that property. So we've been working on that for, how long have we been working on that, Mindy?
How many
Over a
acres
year.
do you, how
A
many
year.
acres do you need to do a new ballpark?
That's on 12 acres. We
Okay.
figure, but they don't have any parking, real parking on that property. They use
Yeah.
the parking lot that's on the Allison Court building parking anyway, but they probably need 15 to 20 acres to really build a decent ballpark,
Okay.
because it's 4 ballparks. It's not 1, it's 4.
So getting back to the original agenda item,
Yeah, sorry.
there's something to be said, given the amount of farmland and the lack of limited business, to having the ability to allow a special exception but us being very meticulous about whether we would approve it or not. I mean, is there not, for that reason? I mean, right now we have to know to rezone, and then that has to fit the requirements of a specific limited business. And the odds of that happening seem very small, but if they approach it the other way and they know that there's a possibility, if they locate some property that's business, that there is a legal mechanism by special exception to grant it if it meets our whatever requirements we choose to place on it.
Well,
I mean,
and
is that
if you look
necessarily a
at
bad thing?
if you look at some of the other general business properties in town, let's say, the old Frid's that was recently purchased, okay, but if that was available and they wanted to move that manufacturing thing to Frid's, we wouldn't allow that by special exception. It doesn't fit that area.
Yeah.
It doesn't fit in a strip center, manufacturing trusses for a house.
Yeah.
Probably wouldn't fit there.
So we kind of went down a rabbit hole once we started talking about the specific use and this
I was
particular
using that
person.
as an example because that's
Oh,
what
yeah.
recently came up. But yeah.
Yeah.
But I'll give you an example of something I could see would work in this situation, and that is Stephen Forrester's building over there on K, across the street from
Right.
Food Right. That seems like that would be the perfect facility for something like that. But it's
Right.
in
Well, it's
a
more
limited
segregated.
business.
It's not in that type of an area.
Yeah.
Right.
But with that property though, Stephen does not want to sell. And
Right,
a lot
he's
of these
renting.
businesses will not consider leasing. And
Yeah, well,
and when
and-
I get these calls, I don't want to say no.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
Well, and I wasn't talking about them specifically. I was just saying,
Right.
Here's
it would
an
work.
example of an environment where it would work in a business, a limited business
Yeah.
situation.
The light manufacturing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
What about redevelopment area?
I thought about that too, but none of
Well-
that's for sale right now.
And the redevelopment district, that's not allowed by special exception in there either.
But you can put anything in a redevelopment area. I thought that was the whole idea.
I
Right.
thought so too.
Well, not a light manufacturing, you can't. I have my table of uses here someplace. I've got everything here. You know what I mean?
So what can you put in a redevelopment area?
Commercial, residential, retail.
Hang on a second. I'll tell you in just a second. Well, dang it, man. It must be, I'm sorry. I'm just looking for my file that has all my table of uses on it. There it is. So right now you got the light manufacturing. Let's get down to there. Hang on a second. Or sorry, manufacturing. You see, there are some like a bus terminal. We'll never have that anyway. Personal care products, that's Memphis Contract Packaging. Warehousing is permitted in general business. Woodworking and cabinetry, I don't know what that is, but then you can see that by special, here's manufacturing not previously listed, which leaves us open to allow by special exception a manufacturer that comes into town who wants to start his business here, the opportunity to go through to the Planning Commission for a special exception to operate right now in light and heavy manufacturing. But it does not allow in the redevelopment or general business. So, I mean, they would have to be an SE here and an SE right there for that to happen.
What is the fourth? What is the last? I can't. Where are the column headings?
Headings.
Sorry, let me zoom out a little bit, then it'll make it smaller, but. All right, here's your headings. General business is right here.
Uh-huh.
And redevelopment is right here.
Okay, thank you.
And then this is light, the first one's light and the second one's heavy. It gets more restrictive, I guess, as you go along, is what it is.
Boo-boo?
Split thumb, it's gotten bigger and bigger.
Mm.
They can't hear you?
Are we still, everybody together here still?
I'm here.
I'm here.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm looking for I'm looking for all the bus terminals, bakery, lumber.
They even have
yard,
bus terminals anymore? Sorry.
Well, we kind of have one down there in front of Dollar General,
Well, yeah, and if you go outside City Hall at 9 o'clock or 9:30, the bus at FedEx is out here to pick up their employees. They have a bus that picks up employees here to take the FedEx to work at the night shift at FedEx.
Wow.
They come here at about 9:30 at night, and then they bring them back in the morning.
I find it weird that we're going to allow special exception for woodworking and cabinet making in general business, but not the redevelopment district.
Look,
I remember. I remember.
This is like I said, this is a work in progress. So, we can make changes to these things. Anytime we see an inequity someplace, I think we should be allowed to make a change. We just we didn't arbitrarily set up these things. We thought about it quite a bit, but, you change the value of property by changing what the use is on property if you limit the uses. So sometimes, I don't know.
I mean, there's a guy down in the redevelopment district right now who makes cabinets.
Okay.
And I don't see that it's not appropriate.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, George, do you know, he was down in, well, darn.
Easy for you to say.
I can't call the words. What's that place down, darn.
You talking about the guy down at the end of Market Street?
No, I'm talking about Memphis. There's a furniture maker that is at, what's the name of that area in Midtown that everybody goes to for that big festival?
The Pinch, or no, not the Pinch.
Cooper Young.
Cooper Young.
Cooper Young.
I said it first.
You did.
Oh, Betsy, you're so smart.
I'll take art and literature for 50. Okay.
Well, like Danceable, like Crawford Cabinets and Danceable.
Right.
I mean, that fits. That would fit in the redevelopment district.
Well, the redevelopment district is a small, finite area, and we ought to look at it parcel by parcel, look how many are available, get a feel for whether they're actually available or just empty, and consider what we would like to see there. I think that's a very doable project for a meeting, to just kind of concentrate on that and say, do we want to allow that with special exception? What do we see here? so that it kind of reflects.
It could
When
be
we
like
start
an
to get into that,
artsy.
when we start to get into that, Betsy, you'll see how limited the redevelopment district is, you know,
Yeah,
as far as
that
what
people
we
don't
can
wanna
do with it,
sell or-
just
yeah.
because the properties are, that's where all of our buildings are down there.
I know.
And, you know, we're about to put the firehouse on this piece of property right here.
Yeah.
So,
What
you
about
know,
the property next to it? Who owns?
the property
is
behind
that-
it here,
Yeah,
that's for
owns that?
sale.
it is. Okay.
That's where the old corn cribs used to be.
Yeah.
The old silos used to be there.
Yeah.
It was, we did approach the man about purchasing that property, but it was a little bit out of our price range. We didn't want to pay as
Okay.
much as he wanted to pay. He wanted
Yeah.
for it.
Yeah.
And then a lot of it is in the floodplain. So
Yeah.
you gotta watch that too.
Yeah. I know there's
So-
not much, but it's
And,
very,
you know, then you got several farm supplies over here.
yeah.
And you get different stuff. Here's the old gin lot that goes straight through, which
Mhm.
has a retail, you know, it has that office space there in the front of it.
Mm-hmm.
Back here is, that's Sidney Wilson's property back here.
Mm-hmm.
Some of this is the lumberyard. And then
Yeah,
you
some
have
of it's-
retail businesses, and then you got the perpetual card game over here on one of those pieces of property.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
And-
car-
Yeah, sorry.
308 North East Street.
Anyway, so
Yeah.
you can see there really is not a lot of property available down there if you go down there.
Yeah.
But I do think we need to start working on thinking about a future land use plan at some point, just because.
Yeah. That's becoming very apparent.
Things are getting kind of bottled up as far as availability of different things. And if we can have a plan for the future, as far as, you know, we can say, oh, well, the future land use plan does not call for light manufacturing in that area. And we can use that as a criteria for not allowing it
Mm-hmm.
or allowing it if it's whatever.
Yeah.
So, or considering it, I mean, not necessarily allowing it, but considering it and then go into a public meeting and rezoning it to the new use. But anyway,
Okay. Yeah.
that was a little bit more discussion than I thought we were going to have on that special exception.
Sorry, Bob.
That's okay. It's all right.
You said discuss. We wanted to oblige.
Right. Well, it's going to, I'm going to show you, it's in the next thing right there, Betsy. If you
Okay,
want
let's
the
go to
next-
6. Yeah, let's get to 6.
Right, so 6 is what the ordinance would look like if we included all the stuff we've been talking about for the last few months about in the BZA law, bylaws and all that stuff. Okay, so, and a few other things that we changed. So I try to do this as easily as possible to understand, and we can all kind of stay on the same page together. So all the highlighted areas in yellow are language changes or reference changes. And the blue basically tells you is the explanation of what the highlighted area is in each place. All right, so this originally allowed for appeals to go directly to the Board of Zoning, right to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen, but now references the new section that we're going to add, 14.2.205, which is an appeals process to decisions made by the BZA. Okay, so that reference now, that reference was changed from going directly to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen now to go into the section that references that ability to appeal a decision of the BZA.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, everybody got that?
Yep.
Okay. I added the post-hearing request. That's the section 205 again. That's the same section we're talking about right there. All I did was add the heading there. All right. This highlighted sentence is additional language we added. It allows for an advertising of three days prior to the meeting through print ads, electronic ads, or town's website, or social media accounts, or by posting flyers within the public view. So it gives you an idea of if we call a BZA meeting, there has to be some kind of public announcement of that meeting. The little BZA right here, I changed the word. It said board on there, and I thought the word board was confusing. Maybe people could think that was the Board of Mayor and Aldermen. So I changed it to BZA I think just to,
Good call.
denote, to make sure people know it's BZA and not board. Everybody got that?
Mhm.
Okay.
Mhm.
Next section here, language. So all this language here was basically in the ordinance originally, but was all in paragraph form. So instead of keeping it in paragraph form, I opened it up into step-by-step instructions, and we also added number 4. So everything on those 1, 2, 3, 5, and 6 was already in there. It was just in a paragraph form. And then the BZA chairman shall review the agenda and call a special meeting within 30 days. It's just giving us 30 days, giving you 30 days, Betsy, to call a BZA meeting
Okay.
in case we have an appeal. These sections were added. This came right out of TCA, powers and duties. References the sections in TCA, which give the BZA certain powers. Whoops, sorry. And then this section here was added regarding appeals, special exceptions, and variances. In making decisions, the appellate shall indicate the specific zoning ordinance. It gives you the new language that we're going to add to that. Anybody want to take a look? Whoops, sorry. Anybody want to take a look at that? Is there any comment on that language that we're adding?
Good to me.
Yeah, I think we've discussed.
That's good.
I think we've discussed all this stuff. I'm just trying to get it in form so you can see what it's going to look like if we go ahead and recommend to the board of mayor and aldermen to add this language to the zoning ordinance. I eliminated paragraph 3, which I probably should have highlighted. I have that language. I have that someplace else here. Wait a minute. I'll tell you where it is. Let me go over here and get to it, and I'll show you what paragraph 3 said. Hang on a sec. Sorry. Sorry. All right. Okay, where it said in paragraph 3, any action taken by the Board of Zoning Appeals regarding special exceptions may be appealed to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen, which we don't want them to do that. And an appeal may be initiated by the applicant. So I removed that section because we really want them to go to section 205 in this zoning ordinance, the one that we're adding to that. So everybody understand that?
Yes.
Right. So I took that out because it conflicts with what we want to accomplish here in the BZA guidelines. Okay. Sorry, we've already been here. Okay, there's the rule of paragraph 3. Variances, Betsy, I think this is your language that you added.
Yeah.
And we agreed to last time. If everybody wants to take a review of that, anything in yellow is what was added. Everything else was originally there. Again, I think this gives us specific guidelines as to how we can, or what the BZA needs to consider when granting a variance.
Yeah.
All right, but question on that, maybe I haven't read far enough yet. When you're going to grant a variance to a conforming lot has an exceptional shape which render development difficult or impossible. That's in the case of where I can't go out and create a conforming lot and then come to the Board of Zoning Appeals and say, hey, this lot is
Hasn't that been addressed further
conforming.
down someplace?
Well, that's what I want to know. I mean, normally
Bob doesn't
when I
know?
see that kind of language, it talks about a lot of record that existed, and since then the zoning has changed such to make it a problem. Not just because I go out and create a bunch of conforming lots that are in a ditch, and then I can come to Board of Zoning Appeals and you can give me variances. That's, I don't think, the intention of the BCA, is it?
No, it's not, but is it not covered in any place before or after? I'm looking, I can't see. Conditions. Findings. Oops. Okay.
Looking, sorry.
Yeah. It's just not there. Is that the end of the?
That's it. Yeah. Here's the rest of the language in that section. In the cases above where the strict application of provisions of the zoning ordinance would result in exceptional practical difficulties to or exceptional or undue, this has all been, was in the original language, hardship upon the ownership of such property, provided that such relief may be granted without detriment to the public good and the intent and purpose of the zoning ordinance. Financial disadvantage to the property owner is not to be considered as adequate hardship within the purpose of the zoning ordinance. In granting variances, the BZA may attach thereto such conditions regarding the location, character, and other features of the proposed building structure or use as it may deem advisable in consideration of the purpose of the zoning ordinance. So the letter A, Mayor, you got a conforming lot, right? You got a
Yep.
conforming lot in shape, I mean, in size. And you have, but the shape of the lot is such that you can't put a house on it?
Okay.
Is that what it says?
No, to me, that says that the Board of Zoning Appeals could basically waive anything it wants to, for any reason it wants to, as long as they can say that it's not detrimental to the public good. And that's not the purpose of the Board of Zoning Appeals.
Yes.
Oh, it has to be conforming though.
Well, but I can't go out, buy a piece of property, create a conforming lot, and then, but I've also created this lot in a ditch, and now I want you to vary the side lot line because I want to build a house that's 60 feet wide and I'd be off in the ditch. So therefore, if you'll let me get within 5 feet of the line instead of the 15 that's required, I can build my house that I want. I don't think that's proper. I mean, I think if you look at the state law on the Board of Zoning Appeals, it talks about the Board of Zoning Appeals can do those kinds of things where a lot of record has been rendered inoperable because of a change in the zoning. I mean, in 1930, we created a bunch of 50-foot lots, and then we came along in 1975 and required in that particular area a 15-foot side yard, which meant we reduced that lot so that you could only have a house 20 feet wide. Well, that's where the Board of Zoning Appeals can vary that to allow something reasonable. But to me, the way this is written right now, the Board of Zoning Appeals just can change almost anything.
So what's the correction for it? Just saying a lot of record, a legal lot, a existing conforming lot? What do you
Well,
see?
I'm looking.
Because we want to be able to grant a variance in some situations where there's an exceptional shape. That's pretty generic for BZA. So how do we word it to make it?
Well, no, not where I create those lots that
No, I'm
create
saying, but I'm
problems.
saying, you know what I'm saying? That's one of the lists in a list of when you grant variances, there is something that addresses exceptional shape. So we need to make it conform to the language that is restrictive that we had before.
Well, letter D speaks directly to what the mayor was just talking about, where a legal
Well,
lot
but
of
I don't
record was
think
made
that's
non-conforming by the creation of an amendment to the zoning ordinance.
Well,
Yeah.
right, and
But that's a lot.
typical.
Yeah.
Right.
That's typical. I mean, that's the whole purpose of the Board of Zoning Appeals.
Yeah.
Uh,
But I think if I could jump in for a second, I think with
Sure.
all four of those A, B, C, and D, I think they work well together because it covers several different situations. I think D addresses what the mayor was talking about, you know, for non-conforming lots that were made non-conforming by a change in ordinance. So I think you have really C and D talking about legal lots of record, and then A and B I don't think are bad, because if you can have a conforming lot that just it's difficult to develop on, but usually those are older lots. It's not anything created recently. One thing we may add here, if it's not already in that bottom paragraph, is that the applicant cannot create the hardship. So, and I think that would cover what the mayor's talking about. So somebody couldn't come in with a plat tomorrow for a subdivision and create a really crazy lot that we know that can't be built on, and then go and get a variance from the Board of Zoning Appeals. I think we'd handle that through the platting process. We'd make sure that the lots are buildable as required by the subdivision regulations. So really anything that was going to need a variance is probably something that's been around for a while. It may or may not be conforming. I don't think that should be one of the disclaimers. I think it could be either one, but you could have a conforming lot from the past that just doesn't make any sense anymore. And conforming could be,
excuse me, but couldn't someone work around that by involving just two parties? You know, somebody create it and then sell it to their partner, and then he's not the one that created the hardship. He bought it, but it's still a new lot that we really don't want to allow the variance because there was a plan. They had planned to avoid this, to get the setback changed, and it was all, I mean, they could do that pretty easily.
yeah, but I would say if someone's creating a new lot, the subdivision regulations require that lot be buildable now. So anything that say is done even, you know, a few years ago through the near future, I think if a lot were created, you'd make sure that it was buildable. You know, that would require you to do something in violation of the subdivision regulations and create some weird shaped lot that you know isn't buildable, and that would come through the subdivision review going on. So I don't think that would be very likely unless we just really screw up bad and approve something that doesn't make sense, where one lot is just really, really bizarre.
But what about those subdivisions that don't even come to the planning commission, that are single carves off from agricultural property, and they make it and it's got a ditch and it's really shouldn't be built, but some guy buys it off of our farm and then he sells it to his brother, and his brother comes and says, I want to build this here, and I can't, you know, it didn't have to meet any subdivision requirements. I mean, you can't protect from everything, but is that something
Right.
that we should at least have given thought to? Is there some way to address
well,
that?
state law says the powers of the Board of Appeals is where by reason of exceptional narrowness, shallowness, or shape of a specific piece of property at the time of the enactment of the zoning regulation, or by reason of exceptional topographic conditions or other extraordinary and exceptional situation or condition of such piece of property, the strict application of any regulation and so on that says that you can do it. But it's talking about lots that, you know, that were created and
Before
then
the zoning ordinance.
the zoning changed.
Was it for the whole thing or just the first half? I thought you said or like the first half of what you said, address those that were legal lots at the time of the zoning ordinance, or if the lot it's.
Or
and then
by
the second
reason
part.
of exceptional, yes.
But does the second part apply to just those that existed prior to the zoning ordinance? Or just the first part apply to those that are? I'm not looking at it, so I can't tell how the sentence reads. Or where
Well, I really think either could, because you could have that situation exist where you have an old lot under a previous zoning ordinance that would still be conforming if a new ordinance was adopted. Like say the mayor's example, if you had a 50-foot wide lot in the past, and then a subsequent zoning ordinance put 15-foot side yard setbacks on it, that lot, let's say it still meets the minimum lot size requirement, still a conforming lot, but that zoning ordinance put a hardship on the lot because you only have 20 feet of buildable area, 20 feet wide.
Mm-hmm.
So it could still be a conforming lot, but it also has exceptional shape, or you could probably apply a couple of those to it. So I don't want to get hung up on the conforming versus non-conforming, because you can have a conforming lot that's still not buildable in certain situations. So I don't think that language is bad there. I think you can have a conforming lot. Again, with A, B, and C, D together, I think most everything is covered. And even saying what I mentioned before about the hardship being not created by the applicant, it could be added. But in thinking about it more, I'm not sure that's even needed here. I mean, I believe that might be in state law, Mayor, that you were reading off that part of it. But I think given the subdivision regulations, you wouldn't have the ability to create a lot that would meet these criteria for a variance. And I've seen it in the past where it actually happens where you have a newer lot and somebody comes in and they just want to put a house that's too big for the lot on the lot, and they'll get a variance and it'll get approved, even though it doesn't meet the variance criteria, which is unfortunate when the rules aren't applied. But again, I think the subdivision regulations would keep you from creating an unbuildable lot that would require a variance.
So we could add the language in the paragraph following it, the hardship shall not be created by the applicant.
That doesn't.
You think that
That
would?
doesn't hurt, does it? To have it. I mean, it may not be of any value, but it doesn't hurt.
Yeah.
What section of TCA is that in, Ronnie? Mayor?
13-7-207.
So I can look at that a little bit more before the next meeting if you want, and we can make sure we get it all correct. Don't you think?
Yeah, I'm not, I have worked in some small cities where the board of zoning appeals just grants variances because they like old John and he wants a variance.
Yeah.
And I don't want this written that way. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I want this to, that there's certainly legitimate, reasonable reasons why you would or wouldn't, and not just because you like Bill, but you don't like Sue. You grant the variance here, but not there. I mean, I think that gets you sued pretty quickly. The Board of Zoning Appeals, normally their job is to tell people no. So. I just want that to be clear why you can do that.
Okay.
And it seems to me that it's not that this group that's here today is going to let somebody develop a subdivision that has buildable lots that will then, or will have unbuildable lots that will need variances. It's dealing with lots that already exist out there.
Well, there's one subdivision in town that's near the end of its development that has a few or virtually unbuildable lots on it left. Probably one or two unbuildable lots. I mean, they've put houses on them, but I don't know how they did it.
Where's this?
in Woodbridge going down,
Ah,
Oh, I
Deerfield
know.
Cove down there. You go
Deerfield
down
Cove,
that
yeah.
way. There are some lots over there on the left that are pretty difficult to build a house on.
Yeah.
And I don't know if there are one or two lots back there that are still remaining, but
that one in the very back of the cove.
well, that one back there, I don't know how you're going to put anything back there.
No.
And then the other one's got a ditch running right through the middle of it. But they did put a house in the front of that the one right next to it. So I don't know.
Yeah, it seems like in those situations the plot of land is given over to a civil engineer.
Right.
It's like they never went out and looked at the land. They just started drawing
Cut lots in.
pie shaped lines on a piece of
Right.
paper.
I think in some cases, I think you're right.
I would like to work on that section again before we approve that.
I'll work on it over the next couple of weeks.
Okay. Any others?
Here's the new section, the post-hearing requests. What you can do and what you can't do for appealing. We've been through this before, a couple of times before, and I think that we're okay on the language. I think that we're good on the language here to go.
All right, now, well, I have a question on number one.
Okay.
Does any aggrieved party within 60 days of the public hearing? What public hearing?
Okay.
I mean, I'm not sure what that means. I mean, does that mean, I just don't know what that means of the public hearing. I mean, it would seem to me that needs to be, if I'm appealing something, it would need to be within 60 days of disapproval by the board or something, but not 60. You know,
Okay.
I could have, I just don't think that's clear as to when my 60 days starts running.
Mr. Mayor, or
Yes, sir.
or after the hearing where it was approved, but some homeowner that's adjacent
Well, yeah, I mean,
didn't like
Yeah,
the result.
but it's got to be where there was action taken, not, I mean, you could have a public hearing. Well, and now to me, a public hearing is an advertised public hearing. That's not just a meeting.
Right.
But doesn't it have to be,
That's what the
doesn't
headache.
the wording say BZA is a public hearing that has to be advertised 3 days prior?
Yeah, the
No,
header
it's
says
at a
public
meeting.
hearing request.
Does it say meeting or hearing? Because they're two different things.
Okay, well then we need to tighten up how
Okay.
we're referring to
I
it.
can fix that.
And if you're going to have
I
to
mean, it seems
redo,
to me that the 60 days starts when there's a decision made by the board.
Right. 60 days from a decision made by the BZA.
Okay.
Right.
and
That
if you're going
sounds
to if you're going to have to redo number one, it would be in a case in which they participated. English major over here.
Yeah, I'll fix the language.
Oh, the end. Sorry.
Just a little jab.
Sorry. I'm never going to let you read anything I write.
In which they participated. Is
Yeah,
that what you like?
you can't end a sentence. in a
Mr. Manners there. Mr. English major. I can fix that. I actually stole this language from something else. So, you know, it's probably in Franklin's just like this or somebody like that.
I need to write them a strongly worded letter.
That's right. So no such request for a rehearing shall be considered unless new evidence is submitted. The request must be in writing, and it must recite with specificity the new evidence and the reasons for the request. Motions to hear will be deliberated on and decided based solely upon filings. No oral arguments or live presentations will be made to the BZA in conjunction with the motion to rehear. A request for a rehearing shall be acted upon by a motion of a member of the board who, I probably should say BZA instead of board.
Wait, before you go on,
yeah.
Number 4, motions to rehear will be deliberated on and decided based solely upon filings. And then it says no oral arguments or live presentations will be made to the BZA in conjunction with the motion. So you're saying even the rehearing will not be oral?
So in the language, they consider the BZA meeting a hearing, like a legal hearing, because
That's not what he's asking.
No, what I'm asking is, let's say I'm the guy who's like, I want a rehearing, but I don't get to actually go and state my case orally.
No, you only put it in writing.
Wow.
What it looks like.
That's tough.
I think it's
I'm
meant
not
to
sure
make.
I agree with that.
Okay.
I don't, if you're going to grant somebody a rehearing, I don't think you then make them jump through lots and lots of hoops. So, I mean, because we obviously deal with some people sometimes who are they're not attorneys. They're not used to making filings. If you took this out of Franklin, they probably deal with 3 attorneys at every hearing. But
Oh yeah, they have like two BZA meetings a week. I mean,
yeah,
they
and
have
I'm sure
regularly
that they
scheduled
have,
BZA meetings.
and I'm sure they have developers and attorneys and everybody else at all those meetings. But
Yes.
we don't tend to do that here. So,
Maybe there needs to be just maybe I can work on this a little bit and make it a little less legal.
well, it seems to me you would allow oral presentations on their new evidence, because I could see the board getting a handwritten note from a property owner that really doesn't make a lot of sense. But if he could explain it, it would, you could see what they're talking about. I just think you're getting a little legalistic there.
Right.
To not allow an oral argument or a live presentation. If you're going to the trouble to have the hearing, why would you just sit and read papers at the hearing and then somebody makes a motion or they don't and it's over with? I just don't think I don't think people would see that as much of a hearing or much of a chance.
Well, in that same vein, if you're having a rehearing, then you're also giving 3 days notice of the rehearing, and then the public will be there, and you're giving people a chance to rebut the new evidence. If it's all in writing, I don't think you get what you're hoping to accomplish. Because something be brought up during an oral argument that's important.
Well, the first time I read this, it sounded like to me that you call a meeting. It's not really the rehearing. What you have to do is you get this in writing. I mean, I was confused by the whole thing, to tell you the truth. But of course, remember, it doesn't take a whole lot to confuse me. But it just seems to be overly legalistic to me if you're going to grant somebody the chance to say, here's some more evidence, Board of Zoning Appeals.
Wait,
then you hold another meeting. And
number 8 deals with what you do get another chance for an oral an oral presentation.
Where do you see an 8 that says
Number,
that?
the way I read this, number 4 is about requesting another hearing. And then if your 8 says if the request is granted, an appropriate order shall be prepared by the secretary. A copy shall be sent to all parties in the case will be set for another public hearing upon receipt of the new filing fee by moving party. So yeah, you do get another chance to present orally. It's just that number 4, it deals with the
Actually
decision.
granting the rehearing.
Right.
So
Okay.
you have to have 2 meetings.
Well, the BZA would review the request for a rehearing and make a determination on whether the facts warrant a rehearing or not. And then grant the rehearing.
So then you have to have another advertised meeting to actually have the hearing. So you have to have 2 hearings over a rehearing
I don't think you do the
if you
No,
actually
not-
rehear it.
you don't advertise for number 4.
No, that just gets submitted to the BZA and they discuss whether they're going to go forward with it. And then you have your second public hearing.
But I can't show up at that meeting and try to convince you that you ought to rehear it.
No,
No.
that's what it says.
Yep, that's right.
Now, that's exactly what it says.
Yeah.
I mean, you wind up having to have 2 meetings over this. You
Right.
have
If
to
I
have
was
one
sitting
meeting
here-
to decide if you're going to have a meeting.
If I was sitting here telling people what they needed to do, I would say, this needs to go to the BZA and they will determine whether it needs to be a rehearing or not.
And then if you'll have your attorney prepare your filings,
Right.
No.
they'll look at it.
Well, we're saying any aggrieved party, that could be the party who was looking for the request or the person who was against it may actually come. So could be the aggrieved party. They could be the person who didn't want that appeal to happen and it happened anyway. Could be both sides of that argument. Could be the aggrieved party.
Mhm.
Sorry.
one way to simplify this, which I think is what everyone's getting
Please.
at, because you probably condense this a little bit and maybe skip that the making the motion to try to get a rehearing, maybe allow everybody one shot at a rehearing, but then one of the criteria y'all would use is whether or not they have new evidence or not. So if they come forward with no new evidence, you just say, well, we're not going to grant your appeal or post hearing because of it. But instead of having 2, maybe just have 1, but that just becomes a decision point for y'all. And then you can decide if there is new evidence and it's valid, then you could, change your decision. But
Yeah, you can say, Mr. Smith, what's your new evidence? And he says, I don't have any. Say, thank you, Mr. Smith. I'll see you later.
yeah, because then it gets away from having to submit a filing to try to convince y'all that they deserve a rehearing.
I can fix that. We can fix that, Jim.
But that'd be, I guess, and generally speaking, just get that middle meeting out of there and just go straight to the other. But you don't want to allow somebody unlimited chances to be reheard again, because they could just show up every month with no new evidence and keep on getting on the agenda. So, maybe do limit it to, a one-time rehearing with the understanding that new evidence is necessary, to be successful.
And in the meantime, the guy who got that variance has already built his house. And the guy who lost that argument is still trying to get it, get that variance overturned.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, maybe 60 days is too long. Maybe if I
Maybe.
lose today, then I've got at the most 30 days to ask for a rehearing.
Yes. Okay.
All right.
Yeah,
But
that sounds good.
I'll work on that for the next meeting. I'll get, Jim and I will work on this for the next meeting.
Yeah.
Okay.
I wanted to also potentially, that's actually everything for the BZA. That's the end of the BZA language.
Okay.
There are some other parts that I'd like to consider adding. One of them is adding a rezoning process to the zoning ordinance so that we always do the same process, which is basically the process I'm using right now for the rezoning of the property for those apartment buildings. I've already created a request form. They filled it out for those apartments. We present the request to the planning commission. Planning commission reviews the request, makes a recommendation to the board of mayor and aldermen. Once the planning commission has made the recommendation to the board of mayor and aldermen, the board considers adopting the ordinance on first reading. All rezoning ordinances require 2 readings, which must be adopted by the board of mayor and aldermen in a meeting open to the public. A rezoning ordinance also requires a public hearing so that interested parties have the opportunity to address issues surrounding this rezoning request. And then number 6, upon adoption on first reading, a public hearing shall be held, which shall be advertised in a local newspaper at least 15 days prior to the public hearing date. Public hearing is held on the date advertised to address any public concerns or benefits to the proposed rezoning. Board of Mayor and Aldermen shall consider adopting a rezoning ordinance on second reading. Upon adoption of the rezoning ordinance on second reading, the caption of the ordinance shall be published in a local newspaper. Once published, the rezoning request becomes official, and the zoning map, the zoning of the property will be updated on the official town of Somerville zoning map. So that's kind of something I kind of put together because we had this rezoning request and recently had a couple of them recently. So I kind of thought we might want to put that in our zoning ordinance just to make it more official and have it where we follow the same path on a regular basis.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's pretty much just pretty easy. It's just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. But, actually number 5 is just explanation of why. But
Well, and it's easy for us to hand a property owner a piece of paper that says this is the process.
Yeah.
It's ease of use, I guess, for everybody involved.
Yes, sounds good.
okay. And that would go in section, a new section called 14.2-1003, which is the beginning of creating the zones. So each of the following paragraphs in section 4, each of these paragraphs referred to the word appeal on the table of uses, which no longer appears on the table of uses. So I changed that by special exception and prohibited uses. So uses permitted by special exception and prohibited uses anyway, on table 1. So in section 14.2.1106 and table 1. So that all refers to, all I did was change the word appeal to special exception in every one of those paragraphs. And you can see where it's highlighted right there. That's again, I just changed the word appeal to special exception. I don't know why the approval, let's see, original paragraph up to the word approval. Oh, the original paragraph up to the word approval is the same. There was additional language in the rest of the paragraph which conflicted with information in part 18, which is our restriction of use. This is home businesses. So he had, in the original ordinance, we had a whole list of what home businesses were, but we now have that in part 18, which is our restrictions, use restrictions. And home business lists all the restrictions are listed in part 18. So there wasn't any reason to list it twice. We just made a reference to part 18 instead of listing it again twice.
Okay.
All right. And again, same thing here. You have a question there, somebody? No?
I'm still back on section 4.
What's section 4? Sorry. Here? All right.
No,
so let
in
me see what-
section, yeah, 14, all right, and this is, just the way that's written, I'm not, I want to talk about.
You're not, you can't
not
tell what it's,
necessarily.
yeah.
Well,
Let
you
me-
say repeal each of the following paragraphs in part 11 in their entirety and replace them with the following. Well,
Yes.
you've just repealed all of everything, so you're replacing everything with these one little lines here. I mean, I just think
That's it. That's all there
In
is in
terms
those
of the-
paragraphs. Let me get down there to that section. Hang on a second.
well, but you've already repealed the entire thing.
Right. I'm going to show you, Mayor. Hang on a second when I get there. Okay. So in rural residential, use is permitted. It's A, B, C, D, so forth. And then it says uses permitted by appeal and prohibited uses. See section 14.2 and to table 1. So instead of
Right.
seeing that, then it's going to say, uh-oh,
Uses
sorry,
permitted by.
it's going to be
That's
right
what-
Uh-huh.
here. And see section 14.1106 in table 1. So instead of that, it's going to have special, I'm sorry, see section 14.2.1106 and table 1 is what it's going to say. Hang on.
I just repeal each of the following paragraphs in part 11 in their entirety
Right.
and replace them with the following.
Yes. So here it goes. I'm going to show you. So section 14.2.1101,
I
paragraph
understand
3.
that, Bob.
Yeah.
Bob.
Yeah.
Bob,
Sorry.
I
Go ahead.
understand that. I just don't think that's written very well to say what you're doing.
What would you want him
Okay.
to say?
Well, it needs to repeal each, when you say repeal each of the following paragraphs. You know, I just don't think, I write ordinances every day and I just don't think that's very clear.
Would you like me
on how
to, I can
that's
make a
written.
section for each one of those paragraphs?
Well, I think that would be much more clear.
Okay. So each one of those will then say repeal section 14.2.1102, paragraph 3 in its entirety and replace it with the following language,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
Or, yeah, is that okay?
I think that would probably work.
So that would be section 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, whatever.
Okay.
All right. I can do that. Sorry. Uses permitted by, again, a special exception instead of appeal. It was listed as appeal. Section B, hang on a second. Had a whole bunch of accessory building things in here, but those are all listed on the table 1. So I eliminated that section there.
What's table 1?
Wait a minute. Hang on a second, I'm sorry.
Well, when you say table 1, you're talking about the table of usage, right?
That's correct. Yes, sir.
All right. Well, we need to either say table of uses or we need to relabel table of uses to table 1 of the two. So,
Okay, you want to refer to it as table of uses everywhere?
Well, we can't call it, we can't say in the ordinance, see table 1, and nothing is in the ordinance that is table 1. I mean, it's the table of uses. It's not
Oh.
table 1. I mean, we
Okay,
need
so
to
the
be,
actual first page though, on the first page in the zoning ordinance calls it table 1. Hang on a second.
okay, I see that now.
Say, yeah, the first page actually calls it table 1. And this is just an explanation of what P, PR, SE, and blank mean.
How does table 1 or table of uses deal with accessory buildings? And
It shows you right here where they're permitted, right here.
does it tell you there what the specific setbacks are for
Hang on a
accessory
second.
buildings?
Hang on a second. I just want to make sure I'm on the right spot. Just hang on a second.
Oh, I thought you just passed it.
Yeah, I know. I'm sorry. Here it is. I know you guys are probably going crazy here. Okay, uses permitted on appeal. All right,
Wait.
the next section here, this is 14-2-1106. It's on the wrong page. It needs to be on the next page. Uses permitted by special exception rather than appeal. Letter A, uses identified in table 1, which is right here in the ordinance right now. And then letter B, incidental home businesses as identified in table 1.
Ah, okay.
Which,
It has nothing to do with accessory buildings.
that's correct, yes.
Okay.
Section 2 did not change. Section 3. Let me go to section 3 in the zoning ordinance. Lists all of this activity here for home businesses, which is listed in the, sorry, I'm getting confused. It's listed in the, in section 18, the new part 18 that we created, the restrictions on the lots. So hang on a second, let me find out what the uses are here. Right, so the original paragraph is the same up to the word approval. Please refer to part 18, use restrictions in the zoning for home businesses. And then all of this, here's your original paragraph. And then there's approval, there's the word approval. Incidental home businesses as listed in table 1, it tells you the whole thing again. So we don't need all that language in there again. It's already in order not to have conflicting language in different parts of the zoning ordinance, it needs to just refer to the restrictions in part 18. Right?
And have we looked at part 18 yet?
We've already approved part 18 a billion years ago. Seems like a billion years ago. That was with the table of uses. We did that with the table of uses.
I thought that was table 1.
Oh,
Sorry. When we approved the table of uses.
Well, I mean, we need to, Bob, we
Okay.
really do need to be consistent here. It either needs to be a table of uses or table 1.
Okay. Yep. All right, I'll have to go through the whole thing and make sure I get all of them correct, okay? Make sure I have table one, table of uses separated, so they're not all conflicting language. I'll figure that out. I'll just go through the whole thing again and make sure I've got it all correct and present it at the next meeting.
And my book doesn't have a part 18 in it.
Well, the new zoning ordinance, I sent everybody the new zoning ordinance, which has part 18 in it.
Okay.
You may have a book, a printed book that doesn't have the up-to-date thing, but I can print you a new one. Part 18 refers to the restrictions. Hang on a second. I think this is correct. No, that's part 17, sorry. Part 18, this is what we approved along with the table of uses last time. So it shows you the restrictions on every one of the list of on the table one.
Okay.
All right. You know, because we had uses permitted with restrictions on different things. So the list of restrictions shows you what those restrictions are.
That was very beneficial to do that way.
I think so.
Yeah, I think it really helps.
Well, it allows us to make sure that certain businesses get their beer license and whatever, you know, conform to other parts of what we need to get them to do. So it helps us a lot too. Anyway, let me go through the zoning ordinance one more time and I'll try to be more descriptive on all this stuff and be a little bit more prepared next time. We're almost to the end of it. I mean, it's not that far down here. The ordinance, I mean, the new ordinance. We're pretty close to the end of it.
Yeah.
So actually, that's the end right there. Right there. So we're just basically 2 pages away from the end. So let me fix it all up and because I'm kind of getting confused here. Sorry. I've been way too back and forth here. I need to go regroup and I'll have it ready in 2 weeks and finish it all up for you.
Well,
that's okay.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
It's really going to be an improvement, and
I think
know
so.
it's a slog right now, but we're getting
No,
there.
it's okay. It's all right. I mean, I just have to make sure that I've got it all correct because I don't want to get in a situation where we have to fix it again tomorrow. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I want it right so that 15 years from now, somebody can say, well, they can look it up and figure it out without having to reconstruct the whole entire ordinance in their brains.
Mm-hmm. All right.
And I think that's it for the evening. The other one is just the backup information for every one of those changes. So you can take a look at that too, if you'd like to look at that. There any more questions? Anybody, what are we all doing?
I can't think of any other questions. So, if we're through with that item, for the next meeting, we said we really wanted to know whether there was an existing homeowners organization and what it entailed on Nicholas Place. So is that going to be just something we go to the courthouse to find, or how do you?
I actually think I have one of the deeds here that I copied off a while back.
Mhm.
I don't have it with me right now. I have to go find it. But if
Okay.
I can't find that information here, I will go over to the courthouse and get it.
Okay.
But I believe I have that. I gave that to Stacy a while back, and she's got it in her office. So
Okay. Because that was really the only holdup, was that we didn't want to cut loose the owner of the development. It's,
without
maintaining the
establishing
common
the
areas
homeowners
without,
association.
yeah. And for them as well. We want to, we don't want to hang the homeowners out to dry with not having looked into that. All right. Well, is there any other new business or anything else that needs to be discussed this evening? I don't hear any. If there's no further business, then I consider this meeting adjourned. Thank you,
Okay.
everybody.
Thank you.
Bye, y'all.
Good night,
Bye.
folks.
Bye. Goodbye.
Bye.
Thank y'all.
Thank you. Thank you.